in Daniel ben Michael Halevi's memory, Zichrona Livracha, may his memory be a blessing. I think most people have joined before, but I think it's good just to remind ourselves why we're doing this. So the theme generally is love your neighbour, and we've specifically chosen that because Daniel was the epitome of loving kindness, and his greatest strength was his positive outlook, his resilience and consistency in everything he did. So it just gives us a weekly opportunity to remind ourselves and train ourselves to be a bit more like Daniel. And we're all very busy, but it's useful sometimes just to take a few minutes to remember, reflect and learn. And like I said previously, I'm not an expert, I'm not a rabbi, so if anyone's got any good questions, that's brilliant. I'm more than happy to try and find out the answers if we can't answer it between us. So do let us know. So the theme this week, the topic this week is, seeing as Purim is coming up, there's lots of different mitzvot that we have to sort of do on Purim. There's 7 mitzvot on Purim, and there's a couple of them that are specifically kind of related to helping others, giving to others. So first of all, I'll just run down what the 7 mitzvot of Purim are, and then I'll pick out the 2 that we're going to kind of very quickly focus on today. So on Purim, which is coming up in about 4 weeks or so. It's very exciting. So there's an extra sort of prayer that's added for gratitude. We read the Megillah. We read the description of Amalek's attack. We give gifts of food to friends, and we give gifts to the poor, and we also eat a festive meal with others. So they're the sort of 7 key things, and the 2 that we're going to try and focus on, but it might just be one, considering the time we've got, is giving gifts of food to friends, and then if we have time, we'll do giving gifts to the poor. So giving gifts of food to friends. So the idea here is giving generates love and kind of togetherness. So in Megillah Esther it says, and Mordechai recorded these events, all the miracles of Purim, and sent letters to all the Jews who were in all the different provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, charging them, asking them to observe annually the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day as the day on which the Jews gained relief from their enemies, and the month which had been turned about for them from one of sorrow to joy and from mourning to festival. And it says to observe them as 1, days of feasting and gladness, so we have a big meal. 2, sending gifts of food to one another, that's Mishloach manot. And 3, gifts to the poor, matanot levyanim. So that comes directly from the Megillah Esther. So straight away we can see where that's coming from. And I'm kind of assuming everyone's familiar with Megillah Esther and the kind of story, but ultimately the kind of sorrow to joy was out, and then due to a number of different kind of events and circumstances, we weren't, and we were victorious and we survived, and now we're kind of very happy, and it's a happy month. So the next source is from Rabbi Mordechai Becher, who wrote a really good book called Gateway to Judaism, and he says that while the events of Hanukkah were principally a threat to our spiritual survival, Purim recalls a threat to the physical existence of the Jewish people. Haman attempted to physically destroy every Jewish man, woman and child. So we celebrate our deliverance from this threat with mitzvot that focus on the physical. So we give money to the poor and gifts of food to our friends, and we eat a festive meal and drink wine. And there's a story that I found which is quite unbelievable, really. So it's a story told by Solly Gaynor, who was a Holocaust survivor from Dachau concentration camp. So this is a story. It's about him. He was an inmate, and there was another person who was sort of staying in the same place he was in the camp, called Chaim the Rabbi. It's a good Jewish name. And they forgot sort of when Purim was. That when you're I'm assuming when you're in there, you don't know, you lose sight of the days and the months, and you're not sure when anything is. But this Rabbi Chaim, he knew when Purim was. So this is the story. So it says, so then it dawned on us that back home, 1,000,000 years ago, this was the time of the year when we were children, were dressing up for Purim, playing and eating hamantashen. Just like Johnny's already done. He's had a hamantashen. Chaim the Rabbi remembered the exact date according to the Jewish calendar. We hardly knew what day it was. So he remembered when Purim was. So it says, Chaim then divided the roles of Queen Esther, Mordechai, Vashti and Haman among the onlookers. And he says, I was honored to receive the role of Mordechai, and we all ended up dancing in the snow. So we had our Purim spiel in Dachau. But that was not the end of the story. The rabbi promised us that we will get today our Mishloach manot, our gifts of food, and we thought that it was hardly likely to happen. But miracle of miracles, the same afternoon, a delegation of International Red Cross came to the camp. It was the first time that they bothered about us. Still, we welcomed them with open arms because they brought us the Mishloach manot that the rabbi had promised. Each one of us received a parcel containing a tin of sweet condensed milk, a small bar of chocolate, a box of sugar cubes, and a pack of cigarettes. It is impossible to describe our joy. Here we were, starving to death, and suddenly on Purim we received these heavenly gifts. Since then we never doubted the rabbi. His prediction also came true. 2 months later, Haman and Hitler went to the gallows and took his own life in Berlin, whilst we were rescued by the American army. As a sign of hope and comfort, Mishloach manot had arrived at the Dachau concentration camp in the most miraculous fashion. So that just shows the impact of giving to others and receiving gifts from people. The Talmud in Megillah 7a states that one should send 2 portions of food to a friend on Purim. Everyone does it differently. Some people get very excited and they have a theme for their Mishloach manot, a different theme every year. Some people go big, some people go small. Some people send it just to a few friends. Some people send it to loads and loads of people. But in the Talmud it says, so how do you perform this mitzvah of giving Mishloach manot? It says on the day of Purim, one must send 2 items of food to at least one person. And what is the reason for this mitzvah? So it says to ensure that everyone has sufficient food for the Purim meal. So we said earlier, on Purim you're supposed to have a big, really massive, like a lovely, big, exciting, joyous meal. And this food was supposed to be for them to supplement that meal. So another reason is to increase love and friendship between Jews, thereby dismissing Haman's accusation of strife and dissension among Jews. So it's a really good opportunity to, if you've fallen out with somebody or you don't feel like you've lost connection with somebody, it's a good opportunity to kind of reconnect. 3, is it praiseworthy to send it to many people? So yeah, the answer is yes, it is a good thing, but it's better to spend more money on gifts to the poor, which we'll probably talk about next week, than on one's Purim meal or Mishloach manot. So giving to the poor is even more important. So question 4, are all types of food suitable? So preferably one should send food that is ready to be eaten immediately and does not require cooking. If one sends a cooked dish, wine or fruit, then it can be eaten at the recipient's Purim meal. However, raw meat or raw fish that requires cooking should not be sent. So most people, I don't know, has anyone got any feedback on things they've received over the years? But generally, it's what's the most unusual thing we've ever received? We once did we did a chocolate cake in a plant pot, and that was quite unusual. And send that around. So where are we up to? Can you send 2 portions of the same food? The answer is no. They should be different. And what's the minimum quantity? Ideally, the food should be of respectable quantity to the standards of the sender and recipient. If you send something very small to a wealthy person, then one has not fulfilled the mitzvah.
Oh, wow.
You should send a nicer package to them. And a wealthier person should send a nicer package than a poor person, all according to their kind of abilities. So Rabbi Chaim Friedlander in the Sissei Chaim, he talks about even though giving to others is an expression of love, nevertheless the love is generated in the first place by the act of giving. He says the reason why the sages instituted the mitzvah of sending food gifts to one another was to increase mutual feelings of closeness between people, and once people feel close to each other, then love between them develops. Generally, when one sends a gift to a friend, it's an expression of pre-existing love between the 2 people. But from here, we learn that it is the opposite. Love is the result of giving. Even though originally the giving is an external action only, nevertheless, real inner love will develop as a consequence of it. This is the purpose of the mitzvah of Mishloach manot, to create mutual love and thus awaken the power of unity in our times, as we had in previous generations. So that's so it's not just, have a carton of apple juice and I don't know what else, a bit of fruit and a hummus with poppy seeds in and happy Purim. It's the whole purpose of giving these gifts is to build relationships, to come close to people and create connections within our community. So it's a really lovely thing to do. And yeah, like I said before, some people do like different themes. Carly, have you got any themes you've done like previously in your?
We were once given like a breakfast Mishloach manot. They had like a little box of cereal, like a yogurt. It was like really cute. And we used to have friends who've now made aliyah, and they basically used to make Mishloach manot, which it was always sweet. It looked like but it looked like something else. It looked like a burger and chips, but actually it wasn't. It was made of like marzipan. They were like unbelievable.
Oh wow!
But we always try to give somebody who we wouldn't normally give to. When we give them Mishloach manot, we'll give our friends and then like someone who we wouldn't usually give. We were just wondering about, does it need to be 2 different brachot?
Yeah. Right. So I didn't see that here, but I have. You're right. I have kind of learned that before. Let's. Who's on the line? Rabbi Aaron Price. Do you have?
Yes, sir.
That? Does it have to be 2 different brachot?
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining. We had a question about the Mishloach manot. Does it have to be 2? You have to have 2 different types of food in your Mishloach manot.
Yes.
Does it have to be 2 different brachas? Is that the point?
As the most famous Rashi in the Gemaras, it's Eini Odea, I don't know. So I'll quote that Rashi. I don't know. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
monos are portions. So my guess is it does not necessarily require a different program. You had a pie in England. You had that the king gets the partridge pie with the birds popping out of it, something like that. So you could have some kind of pie and another kind of mazonis, and I think that probably would suffice for a fleishik pie and a milchik pie.
Okay. So cool. Yes, I've just checked. I've got an answer, which is exactly that. That you don't necessarily have to have 2 different brochas. It can be the same, but just 2 different. So you can have 2 different types of cakes or 2 different fruits. So you don't necessarily have to have 2 different brochas. Although I think you're right. That people try to encourage different brochas, but sending different things. But you don't have to.
Good to know. Thank you.
Cool. Has anyone else got any Mishloach Manot experiences they'd like to share or throw into the conversation? Any interesting ones, or any they've sent or received, or
I think what you said before, about it saying that although obviously it's lovely to give Mishloach Manot, it's better to spend more money on matanot le'evyonim.
Yeah.
I sometimes think that gets forgotten. I think that's a shame.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I think hopefully next week we'll cover the giving gifts to the poor.
Yeah,
but I think you're right. Like, I see a lot of people, and they give all loads of Mishloach Manot, and some of them are quite luxurious, and
definitely
big. Well, they could cost quite a lot of money each one, and sometimes you do wonder, kind of, But if you can do both and give lots to the poor and do that, then fantastic. But okay, great. So that comes to the end of our session this week on Purim and giving gifts to our friends. Hopefully, people kind of are a bit kind of more focused about the purpose of doing it, and hopefully everyone, will try and do it to at least one person. If you need our address, we'll send it to you, and then you know where to send it to. No, I'm joking. But have a great week, and we'll catch you next week for another 18-minute session, and maybe we'll cover giving gifts to the poor, because I think that's really important. We didn't have time this week.
Johnny? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Rabbi Aaron Price over here. I saw something that I almost fainted when I saw it. Can I share that with the group, or is that we're outside of our time frame?
We're almost outside of our time frame, but do you think you can do it in 1 minute, or do you want to?
You got 1 minute. So the pivotal, I have a 06 in the morning that I'm teaching. So the pivotal chapter in the Megillah, the 6th of the 10th, is Nodada Shnas HaMelech, that the king is having trouble sleeping because of Esther's invitation. So I usually try to teach Shorashim. So where is Nodada? Nod is to be moving around, to be wandering. And in Yiddish, the Nudnik, by the way, the Nudnik, the one who's wandering around. So the only place where Nod, Nun Dalid, that's with Kayin. So he complains that he's Nov and Nod, that he's a wandering, and the Dalid doubles up. And in that line, with Kayin, the name Esther appears. And that was less than 1 minute. Go look it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Very cool.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Be well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye. Bye. Thanks. Thank you. Be well.